Fans, we are back live once again on the Cheap Heat Productions podcast network. My name is Jack Kilby, no gimmicks guy on the socials. And today we have a very special guest indeed. I know we have a lot of Attitude Era fans in the audience, and this is a man whose work certainly stands out in that regard amongst many other situations as well. He's a multiple European champion for WWF, WWE. He's also been in TNA in a high-profile position, ROH, Japan, producer, backstage role. This is a fan Q&A, so I will be posing your questions that you have sent in for this man, WWE legend, Mr. D'Lo Brown. D'Lo, thank you for coming on the show today.
Jack, I appreciate you having me on, and I always love answering fan questions, so I'm looking forward to this. Let's chop it up. I'm looking forward to this.
Awesome. Well, we certainly have quite a bit. I think we'll just jump right into it, and we will probably be jumping around the timeline, but that just makes for an interesting discussion. First, I got quite a few questions about your experience working with the late, great New Jack in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. One fan is asking about his persona away from the ring, whether that was similar to his rather, colorful and often outlandish character, especially in Smoky Mountain. And another fan is asking, was he ever considered for a spot in the Nation of Domination or WWE otherwise, to your knowledge?
I'll answer the second part first. I was never aware of Jack being considered for the Nation. I had no knowledge of that whatsoever. I'd heard rumors of it, but that was later on in life. That wasn't during the time. As opposed to Jack himself, he was literally two different people. If you knew New Jack, and then there was Jerome Young. And New Jack was the dude that was at the arena and did promos. Jerome Young was the guy who was in the car driving and at the house giggling. And two different people. I know he gets a bad rap for, a lot of the carnage and crazy kind of things he did. But if you got to know Jack on a personal level, one of the kindest, sweetest souls ever been around, and there was nothing he wouldn't do for someone that he called a friend. So two completely different, opposite people, and not everybody got to see the Jerome Young side.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he would have fit into the WWF during the Attitude Era if somebody would have given him an opportunity, or was he just not made for that corporate structure, so to speak?
I think the ECW model was perfect for him because it allowed him to be himself. It allowed him to say whatever he wanted. It allowed him to do whatever he wanted. It's sometimes a little different when you're in that higher end corporate structure because now you're dealing with sponsors and, you're dealing with fan backlash, and I don't know if it would have worked. I would have loved to have seen it. It would have been fun. It would have been a fun experiment for sure. But it's just a different level at a higher corporate level when you're thinking of, sponsorship and ticket sales and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Switching ahead in the timeline, I got quite a few questions about your membership in the Aces and Eights faction in TNA. I tend to agree with this fan wholeheartedly. They're asking about how you felt when the idea was first pitched to you, and do you think time has vindicated, so to speak, what was really a much aligned or maligned critically storyline at the time?
So it really wasn't pitched to me. If you remember the beginning of Aces and Eights, it was a bunch of guys in masks just beating people up. And that was a lot of the younger guys that were on the roster of the Garrett Bischoffs and Wes Briscoes per se. So Eric Bischoff had asked me, he goes, D'Lo, can you go into the mask and help orchestrate some of these, run-ins and beatdowns on some of the talent to make it look, a little more authentic and better. And I was like, okay, cool. The problem is I had this very definite shaped head, and in a mask, it gets really well defined. And I remember the first time I went out there, someone goes, D'Lo, is that you? no. And I had to pull the hood up, and I'm like, and then it eventually, the more and more times I went out there, people just started really realizing it was me. And then Eric came with the idea, well, let's just, it was becoming so obvious, let's not insult the intelligence of the other fans. Let's go out there and put you in there. And that's when they made me the vice president. And that made a great reveal when I was I was the mole inside TNA the whole time. And it helped bring the storyline together of how the guys got in the company and how they're allowed to run roughshod like they were. I love the storyline itself. I thought it had a lot of intrigue. I thought it had a lot of depth. It put a spotlight on a lot of characters maybe people weren't looking at or paying attention to. And it gave a lot of younger talent an opportunity to step up and be in a larger stable that was on the top of the card. So I enjoyed it. I mean, a lot of people loved the fact that it was a revolt of Sons of Anarchy, which was the hot show at the time in the country. So I enjoyed the storyline. I wish it would have gone longer. Like I think Ace and Ace could have gone a little. I think you could have strung it out a little bit more because then you could have had part of Ace and Ace turn on each other, faction wars, rival gang wars. You could have done a couple different things with it.
Mm-hmm. A sidebar to that question: you were in TNA during that period of time where they were seemingly smoking hot, had so much talent, man, and arguably putting on a better product than WWE at the time. What do you think was the precipitating factor for those combustible elements coming together and not pushing TNA to the next level at that time? It kind of after the Hogan Bischoff era crashed a little bit, and then now they're back up there again. But it seemed to me as a fan watching, they were right on the precipice of making big moves.
And I've been asked that a few times. There could be several reasons. Was it trying to, expansion was trying to go too big too fast? Was it taking on WWE head on by jumping to Monday nights? A lot of people thought that was bad. I particularly thought that was a bad idea, trying to jump to Monday Nights Live. It just feels like, instead of sometimes jumping on the back of the bear, it's sometimes better to find your own corner of the woods and dominate that, as opposed to trying to take over, the grizzly in the woods. And it's just the WWE is just a strong force. And, when you've got a company that spends more on pyro than TNA at the time was spending on its production budget or its talent budget, it's kind of hard to compete at that level and go toe to toe. It's almost like not being a trained boxer and trying to go after Mike Tyson in his prime. You're boxing, but he's boxing at a different level.
Absolutely. Bunch of questions again. Ibzan is watching live about Cornette. Corny, just in terms of your experience working for him in Smokey during that tumultuous period of his career, and Isban is asking, what was the one piece of advice that you learned from Mr. Cornette?
It's hard to boil it down to just one piece of advice. I mean, that man is a wealth of knowledge, and he was so kind to instill a lot of it on me. I guess one of the big points was when I first got to the Smoky Mountain locker room, he just said, keep your mouth shut, your eyes and ears open. And he goes, you're in the locker room with, hundreds of years of wrestling experience. And if you can't learn in this locker room, that's a you problem. And I look around the locker room and there's, the Rock and Roll Express, and there's Tracy Smothers, and there's, Tony Anthony, the Dirty White Boy, and there's the whole entire Armstrong clan. And it's just so much wrestling experience. I had the greatest seat in the house, sitting in a locker room, with the heart of the NWA and Continental and Mid-South, and I'm just taking it all in. So it was, close my mouth, open my eyes and ears, and just learn. And that helped me and paid dividends in the future.
Mm-hmm. Another favorite topic that we received quite a few questions about was your relationship with Vince McMahon. He can be a very disenfranchising person to work for, but they were wondering whether he was supportive of your career, because again, you got quite an excellent push during that that peak of the business.
Yeah, Vince and I always had a very cordial relationship. I wasn't that guy who could barge into his office, but he and I would, we joked all the time. We had conversations, and yeah, he paid attention to what I was doing. I was on his radar, so it was it. He and I always had a very good business relationship, and then luckily I was always in the orbit of Rocky or Ron Simmons, and I was always in and around Vince. So. He was supportive of what I was doing, and I say I had a good relationship with him, at the time.
Here's a deep cut. Mike D is asking, do you keep in touch with Tiger Ali Singh?
That is definitely a deep cut, and unfortunately, no. Tiger and I, we kind of went our own way. Same thing with Chaz. Chaz and I, we still talk, but neither of us talk to Tiger at all. And I wish him well. I know he's up in Canada. I think I saw an article on him not too long ago, but yeah, we don't stay in touch that often.
You've called yourself the Forrest Gump of pro wrestling for being, at so many key moments. But what are some of the lesser known backstage events or moments during the Attitude Era that best exemplifies that keen sense of timing, and why?
Not just Attitude Era, but just in general. Like, I was in Montreal when the screw job happened. I've been in the ring with, Kojima and Kawada, and I've been in the ring with a lot of these great guys, and I've been around a lot of these moments. It's almost like if you see these snapshots of pictures from different arenas and different countries, they're in the background. I'm walking through, or I'm in the ring with somebody, and it's just I equated to Forrest Gump was always in that right place, that right time to be around this historic moment. And here I was in the Tokyo Dome, or in the Budokan, or in Wembley, or there in Montreal. So it's the analogy of I'm just always seem to be in those right place, the right time, and history is always circling around me. So I enjoy calling myself the Forrest Gump because, hey, I'm always everywhere.
That's very cool. Another deep cut. How was Clarence Mason like as a person backstage towards you?
Oh, Clarence and I got along amazingly. People don't realize that Clarence is a real life lawyer out of Southern Florida, and he was a wrestling fan from the time he was a child. So he was living out a childhood dream, being in wrestling, very similar to most guys who were there. And Clarence and I, we hung out, talked. I talked to him not too long ago, about 6 months or a year ago. Clarence is a good dude, and I love him dearly.
You've named Owen Hart in a few stories, and he's always a guy that comes up in terms of his much documented love of ribs and pranks. Do you have a favorite Owen prank? And this is of course not such a good take, but how did his tragic loss impact the locker room dynamics that you were a part of?
Well, first of all, I'll address that part. His loss in the locker room, it was a giant hole was driven in the locker room. Owen was the heart and soul of our locker room. He was the dude who wouldn't allow you to be, if you ever having a bad day, he'd find a way to make you giggle and get ready to go out there and go to work. I tell everybody, even if Owen was older than you, it was like he was everybody's baby brother, because we all protected him, and we all, Owen was a national treasure. So when his loss was felt, I mean, we're still feeling it because of, I think about all the things that, all the guys he could have had great matches with, all the times in wrestling where he would have fit right in. If you add 3 or 4 or 5 more years, he's in the middle of that ruthless aggression era, and there's John Cena. Now we're getting to a smaller type of guy, and Owen would have fit right into that. And with his wrestling ability and his ability to entertain the audience, man, you always think what would have been and what could have been. I always have my famous story I tell about him untying my shoelaces, but I'll actually tell the one where it was like the first week I got there. And I was doing like I had been told before in Smoky Mountain, get in the locker room, be quiet, look and learn. Well, Owen wanted to break the ice with me. So in the beginning of the nation, I always had my suit. So I had my suit carrier, it folded there, and I would hang it up, let my suit, air out. One time I had gone down to the ring to roll around, and when I got back, my suit was gone. Everything was gone. I'm like, what the hell? And I'm looking around. I'm like, what did I do? Did I leave it in the car? What did I do? And I don't realize till later on, but Owen's sitting in the locker room, he's a little snickering, but he's mumbling underneath. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So as I start walking, I'm looking around, and as I go to go out to where my car is, the big rolling doors that are on back of arenas, the huge where semis can go through them. They're sometimes 30 feet tall. Well, to lift those up and down, it's a giant chain that goes around a a pulley. Well, Owen had gotten a padlock, clipped my bag to the chain, and then closed the garage door, meaning my bag went up to the ceiling. And so now my bag is floating in the air, hung to this thing, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, so I'm mad. I'm like, oh, Owen got me. Owen got me. And so then I go and get the janitor from the building. I'm like, do you have any bolt cutters? And he goes, what do you need bolt cutters for? And I go, and I point, and he goes, oh, geez. And he just starts giggling at me. So he lowers down, unclamps it, and I walk back in, and Owen goes, guess your bag got some freaking flyer miles, didn't it? and that was a way of breaking the ice, and just, if Owen ribbed you, he cared about you. It wasn't like anything malicious. It was letting you know, hey, you're one of us, relax. You made it here. Come on, let's have some fun now.
Did you ever experience or witness some, I don't want to say British Bulldog Dynamite Kid-esque ribs in any of the locker rooms? And how did you respond to that sort of thing?
Bulldog's ribs were a lot tamer by the time I got there. They weren't the same as they were in the late 80s, early 90s. I would see Bulldog do things like he'd take a sewing needle and sew up the arm of a suit jacket. So when you go put your arm in there, you couldn't get your hand through the opening. Or I've heard stories of him cutting pant legs. So when you went to put your pants on, there's nothing there. Just you're wearing like almost shorts with chaps. So nothing majorly malicious, just little things. But I've heard some stories of some early Bulldog jokes that we'll just say they weren't fun and games.
Absolutely. Here's another deep cut. I do a podcast with my friend and managerial charge kingpin Angel Medina of ECW fame. He wanted to ask you your memories of working for IWA Puerto Rico with Victor Quinones, and memories of one Big Russ McCullough in particular.
Okay. First of all, tell Angel I said hello. And secondly, working in IWA was one of the coolest things, because even in late 90s, early 2000s, Puerto Rico still believed, and the fan base still believed. And if you were a babyface, they loved you, and if you were a heel, man, they would throw rocks at you. They would. I mean, I remember this kid would sit in front of the arena with a box, and it would have a sign and saying "Cup of Rocks, 10 cents," and he's selling rocks to throw at the people. I've seen people with a pair of pliers and a lighter and a penny, and they're heating the penny up, so hopefully to brand you with it on your arm. We were told as heels. We lived in a little town called Carolina, which is right outside of San Juan. It's right by the airport in East La Verde. And we were told as heels not to go walking alone in the street. Tourist district, the cruise ship port's right there. And we weren't allowed to go walk around because you might get stabbed in the street if the wrong person saw you out in the street. So we never traveled alone. As far as Russ McCullough, let me start with the positive. Really big dude and a really nice dude. Everything else, he was not built for the wrestling business. He just he didn't understand the wrestling business, didn't get the way of wrestling life. It just square peg, round hole. And I wish he would have, because he had all the physical tools. He just didn't have all the mental reps to be in the world of professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Mike is asking, any memories of here's a great guy, Bryan Adams, Crush or Big Boss Man?
I can give you both. Bryan Adams, what a lovable teddy bear. When you see this man, he's 6'7", but he had this laugh where he just had that laugh, and he was a fun-loving guy. Like the Hawaii thing wasn't a gimmick. Like he was Shaka, brother. He was Kona, and he loved life. And Boss Man, another one just sadly deeply missed. And another one, he was one of those guys that his heart was as big as the state of Texas. Like that was just the dude. And he would sit and tell stories. I remember this one time we were in Tyler, Texas, and JBL had a friend there in Tyler, Texas, who helped promote the show, and he owned a brewery, a distillery. So there were, he brought some beers for after the show for the boys. No big deal. So I'm wrestling Boss Man on the show, and I don't think too much about it, but I look, and there's Boss Man cracking a beer. I'm like, okay, no problem. One of the boys having a beer, who cares? Let's fast forward an hour, and, I go to the ring. My music plays. I go to the ring. My Kyoto's in the ring. All of a sudden, Boss Man's music plays, and it plays for like 2 minutes, and there's no Boss Man. I look at Kyoto. He looks at me. All of a sudden, the music cues up again, and it plays for another 2 minutes, and there's no Boss Man. And then about 3 minutes in, here comes Boss Man throwing his bulletproof vest on. He's not even changed yet. He'd been in the back having a couple beers, so much so he's having fun. He forgot he had to work. He was just having a good old time, telling stories, having fun, cracking a beer. Came to the ring, and he was just giggling and laughing. And I think our match lasted all about 45 seconds. And he went right back to the back, sat right back down, and cracked over another beer and kept on going. And that's just Boss Man, just fun-loving guy.
That's amazing. Are perhaps one of the most asked questions in different variations is about the Nation of Domination. Several different versions, but most want to know how that faction, when it was presented to you. I mean, you can't go wrong with Big Ron and Rock and Mark Henry, all that tremendous talent, The Godfather. How did you feel when you saw how that was being presented on TV as a kind of Louis Farrakhan Nation of Islam style thing? And do you think that it will the members of the Nation will ever make it to the WWE Hall of Fame, as I know you've been calling for rightfully recently?
I'll start with that point first. I think the Nation, without a doubt, as a whole, should be in the Hall of Fame. And I use this analogy. The standard of a faction is usually to elevate one guy, i.e. the Flair with the Horsemen. It's let's elevate one guy up. The thing with the Nation was it elevated everybody who was in it. And if you look at it, we were all more successful after we left the Nation. So the Nation became this great foundation for everybody to stand on and launch from. And everyone's career who was in that Nation became better. So to me, the Nation was a launching point for one of the greatest wrestlers of all time in Rocky. It launched one of the most dominant world champions of all time in Mark Henry. It put, Ron Simmons in a position where he could go on to become one of the most dominant tag teams of all time in the APA. Godfather, it launched the hose. And for me, it gave me a platform to elevate myself up. So I think just on that by itself, the nation deserves to be in the hall. And hell, it's 30 years later, and people are still talking about the cultural significance and the relevance of nation domination. And right there, how many people in wrestling talk about something 30 years after it happens? That tells you the impact the nation had. We were presented in a couple different ways. We had to find our footing, and we were first the Farrakhan way, and then we were just aggressive, and then we're just boisterous. It was part of the constant evolution of the nation trying to find our footing of what was going to get the most impactful response from the people. And then I think when we found our footing, we just had so much great fun moving, because just making people angry at us, getting people upset, attacking their fan favorites. Man, the nation was so fun. The nation was so fun.
Mm-hmm. And there seems to be a significant groundswell of support for the Hall of Fame induction. So let's hope that it happened. You've shared stories about celebrity crossovers in events, and specifically that one that you talked about, Snoop Dogg hotboxing an arena with The Godfather.
Yes.
Fans asking about any other celebrity crossovers during WWE events that stand out in your memory.
One particular, this was the moment when you realize you're doing something a little different, a little special than what even I perceived. We had just flown to London, and we're landing in Heathrow. And the boys are still flying commercial. We're not even on, any kind of private plane or anything, because we'd gone through that time. We did charter flights. We land, and everyone turns left, but we have a liaison waiting for us, and we're waiting off to the right. And as the whole group comes out, then they take us down these steps, and we're walking underneath Heathrow. And this is where celebrities go through, or royalty, or when they're flying out. And in the distance, it's a cavernous area. And as we're walking, we see this long, tall, slender black man and this short little white dude walking towards us. And as we get closer, we hear, "Hey, damn, I didn't know you're all going to be in town." We look up and we go, "That's Will Smith." And at the time, Will Smith is like, he's everywhere. Like, he's the hot dude. This is Fresh Prince time. Like, he's everywhere. And, and he was like, "Man, I didn't know you guys were going to be here." And he looked at his publicist and he's like, can we stay? And he's like, "No, you got to be back in LA," or whatever it was. But he wanted to change his plans to come watch us that night. That's how I knew that, okay, man, this attitude era is really starting to hit, and something's going on here. And yeah, it was about then I knew that we were doing a little something on a different level than most of us even thought. And that's one of the cool little celebrity crossovers. Or being in I remember being at the Staples Center, and there's Nicolas Cage going, "Hey, D-Lo," and he's asking me about wrestling, and I'm like, "You're Nicolas freaking Cage. Why are you talking to me?" So yeah, there were some cool celebrity moments.
Do you think that wrestling will ever be as mainstream as it was during that period of time, the Monday Night Wars era? Do you think that there's the WWE, of course, is doing tremendous business, et cetera, but they're not really the water cooler conversation that they used to be. Do you ever see that, or was that lightning in a bottle?
I think that era was lightning in a bottle, but I think right now wrestling's on a great path, because never in my wildest dreams did I ever think, while I'm sitting there watching college football, that there'd be the announcers doing an advertisement for the Royal Rumble coming up, or seeing Seth Rollins on some of the Sunday morning shows talking about Chicago Bears, or hearing the boys doing the rounds on sports radio. That's stuff that we know we're never, even no matter how popular we never got the opportunity to be on mainstream TV like that, talking and interacting with, historical sports figures talking about their sport. So I think wrestling is got such a right now, so much coverage being part of ESPN and part of that network that it's exposing wrestling to a whole different fan base. And yes, Attitude was lightning a bottle, but man, the tinderbox is about to be lit because I think wrestling's about to explode in a big way, given the amount of mainstream media that wrestlers are on right now.
Yeah, let's hope so. Your European Championship reigns, they bridged the mid card and main event scenes, and you had some extremely memorable matches. X Pac, Val Venus. What's an underrated match from that era that deserves more credit or opponent? A fan is asking.
Oh man. Well, I think the match that Val Venus and I had, SummerSlam, I think it was 98, Madison Square Garden. He and I opened the show. That was the one where it was Steve Austin versus The Undertaker on top. That was one of our really good matches that I don't think got a lot of fanfare. Heck, anytime I got in the ring with X-Pac, I always say that I tell the joke that he and I could have had a 5-star match in a phone booth. Where you said that kind of chemistry. And then, there's so many guys like Al Snow and William Regal. Like matches like that were just awesome. Wrestling against Road Dogg and Billy. Those matches really, really deserve more spotlight. And I was fortunate to have a lot of guys around me who had the same goal and idea was, let's elevate the European title up to a title that's not just a throwaway belt. Let's make this something it's the fans at least covet and respect. And I think we did a good job with that because you had a bunch of guys, treating that like that was our world title and really, busting our tails to make it mean something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely did that. Ibzan is asking, who did you ride with when you were an enhancement talent in the WWF?
I rode with other enhancement talent guys, but those enhancement talent guys were the Headbangers, Gilbert, guys like that. We were all enhancement talent before we even got names. We all would drive together and go to shows. So I didn't as an enhancement guy. I didn't ride with any of the mainstream guys. It was more just riding with the other guys who were there to do the same job I was.
Mm-hmm. And the Headbangers are, I guess, ready to retire from the ring this year. Did you enjoy working with them? I guess that's an obvious question, but
I totally enjoyed working with them. Most people don't know they're the guys who helped train me at the Monster Factory, and so yes, so we've been friends long before I was ever on the circuit. Hell, Chaz and I, our high schools actually had wrestling competitions against each other. So I've known of Chaz since all the way back in high school. So I enjoyed working with him, love working with him, and it's fun to be in the ring with guys you call friends. And not just acquaintances, but like guys you go have dinner with or have been to your house, like friends like that. Headbangers were definitely those guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Thrasher was on a card I was on in December for Flex Wrestling, and man, he's still got it. What a talent!
They can go.
Asking a question live about what do you think about the Unreal program? Speaking of polarizing topics, do you think it takes away from the we all know that kayfabe is no more, but a lot of critics have said that goes too far. What are your thoughts on that particular program?
I'm not a big fan of the Unreal program, and it's personal preference. I think I'll put it like this: if you go to Vegas and you go see a great magician, let's say I don't know, David Copperfield, I'm just picking one out of the air. You don't spend 2 hours watching him perform tricks and then sit there in the chair and then he gives you another 2 hours of, hey, this is how I did every trick. It just takes away from it. And I think people want to be lost in the moment. No one goes and watches an Avengers film and then goes, let's see how the scenes were filmed right after it. I want to lose myself in the illusion of what's going on. I want to suspend my disbelief. And for the 2 hours, what is unfolding in front of me, in my opinion, I want that to be the story. I don't want to look at it and go, well, how did he do that? Oh, I'll find out in an hour. Or, oh man, that's crazy. They really dislike each other. And then you see them hugging each other. Like, I think it's a curtain for a reason. And the performance is one thing. And I don't think everybody needs to know how the sausage is made. Just enjoy the sausage.
Yeah, absolutely. Another very much sent in question was to do with the famous chest protector that turned out to be a pretty memorable part of your presentation. You thought it was the dumbest thing, I guess, initially, but what convinced you to lean into it and really make it your own?
Weirdly enough, it started with a conversation with my girlfriend, fiance at the time. And I remember coming home and I was angry. I thought that was gonna make me look stupid. I thought I was gonna be, people were gonna call me Johnny Bench and like that was gonna make fun of me. And she said, to her credit, she said, you need to give it a try. If it's a bad idea and it fails, it's their fault. If you never try it, it fails, it's your fault. And only you can control what you do. And I, like, dang it, why do you got to be right? So I immediately called Jim Ross because it was his idea. And I was like, you know what, JR, okay, I'm going to go with the chest protector. Let's do it. He goes, all right, I'll let creative know. And then they immediately started building it. And even up until the first time I put it on, I remember looking at it in the back and it was in Pittsburgh. And I was like, I looked at it and I'm like, what the hell is, all right, just go with it. If it's a bad idea, it fails, it's their fault. And so the match was for me, it was Rocky wrestling. It was either Dan Severn or Ken Shamrock. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then my spot was I was going to run down. And as Rocky's got the referee distracted, I climb up and I hit the frog splash with this thing on my chest. And as I climb up, I could hear this different kind of murmur in the crowd as they're realizing what I've got on. And as I hit the frog splash, the crowd sound was different. Instead of going, oh, it was woo. And I literally hit and bounced up and was like, oh, we got something here. Because immediately it connected. Like people were like, what the hell is he doing? You're not hurt. Stop with that. You don't. And I was like, JR, you got it. You did it. You, damn it. You're right. And I immediately went to the back of JR. I was like, JR, you called that one. And that's when I just like, I embraced it because once you find something that connects with the people, you don't ask questions. You just turn the volume up on it and do more of it and give them what the people want. And in that case, they wanted me to not have it on. And the more I went out there and quote unquote cheated with it on, the more angry they got at me. And that's just what my character was supposed to do. So it was that night in Pittsburgh, the first night I had it on, and I hit that frog splash. And from there, I wrapped my arms around it. And, again, 30 years later, it's that and the head shaker, the things that I'm known for. And it went from being what I thought was the stupidest thing in the world to the thing that's one of the most synonymous things about the career, my career, and my time in wrestling. So I owe Jim Ross that, and I owe him for his suggestion. I'm thankful for his suggestion, and without it, I would have just been a guy who could wrestle, who didn't have that thing that set him apart from the rest of the locker room.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Got a few questions about Ahmed Johnson. In terms of everybody is well aware of the heat that existed between him and Mr. Simmons, but fans are asking about your relationship with him. And did you ever find him, Tony, reckless in the ring or that sort of thing? Do you know the origin? They're asking about the origin of that heat with Mr. Simmons as well.
I believe that heat stemmed from the time Ron was in an angle with him and Ahmed hurt him. And then Ron was out for significant time. And as I'm told, Ahmed never called and checked on Ron. And just, that's just not the way you do things. It's if you hurt a guy, you make sure you let him know that your thoughts are with him all the time. And that's Ron's story to tell. I just know there was heat for a long time, and they mended that bridge. And I just talked to Ron not too long ago, and he talked about, he was, let's give the young man a chance. So I follow Ron. Ron is my pseudo uncle, father, mentor, big brother. He's everything in my life. So if Ron tells me the sky is purple, I'm gonna look at the sky and go, that's a pretty shade of purple. So if Ron is cool with them, then by default I'll be cool with them. I'm not going to invite him over for dinner, but I'm not going to walk away from that an autograph signing.
Fair enough. We just have time for a couple of more fan questions. This is an interesting one. Do you think a problem with wrestling today is some of the wrestlers don't take the persona seriously? Sometimes it comes across that they're being the character, other times not. I think fans are talking about the social media. On one hand, you're in a program with someone, a feud, whatever, on television, and then it's the smiles and hugs backstage, and just that juxtaposition of the two. Whereas kayfabe was, that wouldn't have gone years and years ago, even in as recently as your era.
Yeah, no, I came in at a time when, even if you were friends with if I was a babyface and he was a heel, we couldn't ride together in a car. I grew up in a time when Cornette would get mad if babyface and heel showed up at the same restaurant. And if a heel was already there and the babyface walked in, the babyface better turn away and go to another restaurant. You couldn't even sit on the opposite side of it. He didn't want you in the same building. I feel that today's generation is very comfortable with being on the same level as actors. And it's almost like, two guys are in a movie together and they're playing the antagonist and protagonist, but they're doing the movie junket together and they're promoting the movie together and they're buddy. And that's all well and good. And if that's how they want to handle it, it's just not something that would have flew in my generation. Again, as we talk about the Unreal show, I'm a bigger fan of you can crack the curtain a little bit, but we don't need to throw it wide open. So everybody can see. Hell, why don't we just not have a gorilla and just let everybody look into the locker room if that's the case? I mean, let's just do that and see what happens. I'm a firm believer. I like the illusion of what I do, and I may not be able to convince you wrestling's real, but I always took pride in making you think I was real. And that mindset is now gone, and it's now you want to be patted on the back for a great performance. And I never had great performance. I had great matches.
Mm-hmm. The old Johnny Valentine philosophy. Do you find that to be, in a way, disrespectful to those that paved the way?
It's just the way the generation looks at it now. It's the same across the board in life. The newer generation wants to do things their way. And they want to do things and they want to reinvent the game. And that's their prerogative because this world is theirs now. As us being older, we've had our say in how the world is run. So it's just the way it is now. And it's either get on board with it or stop watching.
Fair enough. We've talked about the Nation already, but this fan is asking a different perspective on it. How was it going through different versions of the Nation of Domination?
It was just a constant evolution of trying to find the right pieces and the right form of what the Nation was going to do. So it was like watching a heel's origin story. They're not the same person when they start as when they finish. And that's what the Nation was doing. It was evolving and growing to get to its final form of the one that most of us think about now is, Mark and Rocky and Ron and Godfather and myself. It had to evolve to get to that. And it's just part of the process of growing.
Fair enough. In terms of the, overarching many accomplishments of your career, and I know we spent a lot of time talking about WWE, and TNA, but you've been all over, so to speak. What would you consider to be your proudest accomplishment?
I really, really, really appreciate it and respect the time I spent in Japan after WWE. I was fortunate enough to spend, 6 years there, wrestling for Noah, All Japan, and New Japan. And one of my biggest and most proudest moments was myself and Bull Buchanan We were the GHC Tag Team Champions, and we wrestled Marufuji Segura. We won 29 minutes, 45 seconds of a 30-minute time limit. We lost the tag titles. And as the Japanese guys are crowned champion, the Japanese crowd is chanting for Bull and myself and showing respect to us. And I was just floored. I remember hugging Bull, and I was like, man, this is amazing. Those guys just won, but the fans are showing love and appreciation to two Americans. That was just showing their level of respect they had for us and our wrestling ability, our work, and showing that they wanted us there. So I take a huge amount of pride in that, because I tell everybody it's very easy to get in Japan. It's very hard to connect and stay. And if you can make it in Japan, it's almost like New York. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. It's a different level of wrestling, and they're watching and critiquing under a different lens there. And if you can get over in Japan, that's a really big deal.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mike is just asking, how often do you speak to Cornette or The Godfather?
Cornette, I speak to oftenly. I listen to his podcast all the time, and I will send him little things about what he says in his podcast. I'll send him little questions and then just get answers back. Godfather, here's the funniest thing is we both live in Vegas. Now, Vegas is a weird city where it's big yet small. The crazy thing about it is I never see Godfather in Vegas. I either see him at the airport or when we're out doing autograph signings. It is the craziest thing. We live 20 minutes apart, and I never see him in town unless we're both doing an event there. But I talk to Godfather all the time. Hell, the entire nation, we still have a chat group that we text all the time to. So I talk to the boys all the time.
Last fan question that we have time for. When Brett left after the screw job, do you think Owen Hart would have made a brilliant heel champion going against the company? Yeah, that's an interesting supposition. He always thought that would have been cool.
I think that would have been good timing and perfect. I think if Owen took up that heel mantle and, you know, took up defense of his brother and went anti-establishment, that might have been cool. It would have been topical. It would have been heat of the moment. And I think it might have connected. So, and I think Owen was skilled enough to pull it off. So I would have loved to have seen it. I mean, that's a great what if. That's a great hypothetical, and I would have loved to have seen it.
Mm-hmm. In terms of what you're doing now, do you enjoy your? I know you've been a producer. You've worn many hats. Are you missing that that experience of being a wrestler in the ring, or are you finding other avenues in the business, either peripherally or otherwise, rewarding?
Here's the cool thing is when you work as a producer and an agent, and when you work so closely with talent, putting matches together or helping someone craft their character, when they go to the ring and they perform and you hear the crowd react to them like, you know, in a way you hope they would, you almost get to live vicariously through that guy or that girl. And I get the same rush every time. It's amazing. It's almost even more. It's almost like it's like a proud father moment when you teach your kid how to ride a bike and you watch them ride away for the first time. That's what it's like putting a match together and going out there and seeing them put it in, perform it in the ring, and watching and listening to the crowd. It's almost like I'm out there myself. So I don't just get to have one match in every show. I get to have 4 or 5 now, where I get to have that rush and that adrenaline flow just from good matches. So I don't miss being in the ring. I know my back certainly doesn't miss being in the ring. But I enjoy helping other people find their potential. And that part is fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolute last fan question. I know you're a very fan-friendly guy. I had the pleasure of meeting you in Poughkeepsie, New York, when you were with the Aces and Eights many years ago. Got a picture and an autograph, and that was certainly a memorable moment. And appreciate all the time you've taken today to answer fan questions. This is the absolute last one, though. bodybuilding question. After you dropped a lot of weight earlier in your career, how did you tighten loose skin like arms and pecs? That's interesting.
Here, weirdly enough, I had a bunch of bodybuilder friends, and they always told me Preparation H. And you think that's for hemorrhoids, but what is hemorrhoids? Loose skin. And when you rub the Preparation H on you, it pulls the skin tighter. And that was a trick that I learned from Vigo Snowhill, who was a professional bodybuilder from Finland. And that's one of the things that also too, I didn't lose weight dramatically fast. I think when you shock your body, you lose weight too fast, it doesn't give your skin a chance to be elastic and come back to shape. So it was a controlled weight loss, and I just used a lot of I smelled like Preparation H for a long time.
Well, there you go. A man who has many, many talents, including that one. D'Lo, where can the fans keep up with everything that you have going on, including your social medias, et cetera, et cetera?
It's easy. You can find me on X at D'Lo Brown 75. I'm on Instagram at D'Lo Brown LFC, and that's the easiest way to find out where I'm going to be, what I'm doing. I talk a lot of Chicago Bears football, Liverpool football, and I talk a lot of wrestling, a lot of old clips that I put up now and give you thoughts on it. Hell, I just did there was a perspective piece from 1998 that was in the WWF magazine that I updated the answers on, all these years later. So I'm always on there interacting. And if you're on there, drop me a message, say hi. I am quick to interact with my fans, because without them, then I am nothing. So I make sure I give all my time to the fans.
Awesome. Who do you like for the Super Bowl?
I want Seattle to win, but part of me thinks New England is going to win, because dang it, that team just can't be bad for more than 2 years. So I'd like Seattle to win, but for some reason that little devil in me tells me New England's going to get it. So I'm going to throw my hat on New England, even though I don't want to.
Good stuff. Well, I want to thank you very much for coming on this channel. It certainly has been very enjoyable. Lots and lots of fan interest. And hopefully we can do this again, because I think we're just scratching the proverbial surface.
Well, I appreciate it, and thank you for having me on. It was an honor. And yeah, I would love to do it again. If you can't tell, I love interacting with the fan base. So yeah, anytime you want me on, please give me a shout. Let's do it again.
Excellent. Well, we will stay in touch. Fans, that's it for this special edition of the Cheap Heat Productions podcast. My name is Jack Kilby, and I will see you at the matches. Thank you for watching this video. Please give it a like if you enjoyed it. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Cheap Heat Productions. Don't forget to hit the notification button, and you won't miss any of our upcoming interviews,